Hello, folks. Welcome to another live poetry event. Tonight we have Wendy Brown-Baez, Donna Isaac, Christine Madeline, and hopefully Rifka Levitt. As usual, I'm going to start off reading a couple of my poems. First one is called, quote, "No Worries," unquote. The whole poem's in quotes, and it went a different way than I thought it was when I came up with the title. You just made a little mistake. Unwise, but it didn't create an avalanche of emotion like small indiscretions sometimes do. A little commotion never hurt anyone. How did you know your touch would feel like a porcupine's? I know you were trying to cheer me up, to comfort me, as if you could be a blanket. These things happen. I place no blame. Just realize I want no flame. And my second poem is simply called Psalm. There is a touch of melancholy in this morning's sunrise. The crows are quiet. The rabbits are hiding as the dogs are waiting. The air holds fleeting thoughts of suicide, but I don't want to die. At some point, by barking or caws, this quiet will be disrupted. Other noises will abound, unpleasant human sounds. I am reminded the world is full of explosions, and attempts to do good become soiled. I will have to face the turmoil I lived my life to avoid. And Rika has joined us. Our first poet reading tonight is Wendy Brown-Baez. Wendy is the creator of Writing Circles for Healing. She is the author of Heart on the Page, a portable writing workshop, and the poetry books Treading the Gold and Ceremonies of the Spirit. Her poetry and prose appear widely in literary journals and anthologies, including Mizna, Wisen Up Press, Poets and Writers, Talking Writing, Waterstone Review, Peregrine, and Tiferet. Wendy was awarded McKnight and Minnesota State Arts Board grants to lead creative writing workshops in nonprofits and continues in community spaces such as healing and spiritual centers, prisons, and literary arts organizations. Wendy is the executive editor of St. Paul Almanac, co-creator of Writing to the Wholeness, and was the artist in residence at Westminster Presbyterian Church 2023-2024. So let's hear Wendy.
All right, thank you, Ron. Thanks for having me. And I'm really looking forward to hearing my colleagues later on. As you mentioned, I was the artist in residence at Westminster Presbyterian Church, and I thought that my final project was going to be a chapbook that I would just print out on my own printer, but I had too many poems to do that, and so I ended up with a book, Threading the Gold, and I'm going to read a few poems from that. And basically, it's a combination of contemplative practice and also concerns about social justice issues that are happening in the world. The beginning of my residency was when the bombing of Gaza had first started. So having poetry as an outlet was really cathartic. This is a quote from Peter Benison, founder of Amnesty International. Better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. When I leave the evening meditation, the man who sleeps next to the windows in front of the church is unfolding his bedding. He disappears during the day. Where does he go? Is he among those sleeping on the bus, the light rail? Does he line up for a free meal? I am told he was settled somewhere inside and he came back more than once, a number of times. It's his slab of cement. How does he bear seeing all of us go inside, taking off our heavy coats and greeting each other, preparing for silence? What is mine to do? A few dollars here, a donation there. It seems so meager when the need is so great. Stepping carefully so I do not slip on the cold frosted stairs, I wish my candle could light up more than my corner of darkness. It seems the crowd favorite has been the section about grief and lamentation and grief. So I'm going to share a poem out of that. On the other side of grief is a country where the flowers are blooming and the air is a balm to your skin. The tears, when they come, are like rain, nourishing, cleansing, no longer a storm or a conflagration. They lubricate the stiff posture you held in order to stay upright. Letting go is not falling, but being cradled and rocked. You're not the same person you were, and even the arms that hold you know it. That is why in this country, no one wants to seal up the hole in your heart. It is like breath moving through a flute, or it is the way light shines through a window. So the next poem I want to read from the book is called Epiphany. Epiphany is the time that we celebrate when the wise men came to bringing gifts to the baby. But Epiphany also means an aha moment. So this is my aha moment while attending services at Westminster. And when the wise men came bearing gifts, they also carried with them a vision of a king. But it was not his vision. He never meant to be king on this earth. A spark of the divine is planted at the same time we are seated in our mother's womb. We are made of the same elements as the stars, but stars eventually burn out, even as we see their light from years ago. No, what he was talking about is something that will never burn out, never be dulled or broken or erased or lost. He called it a pearl of great price, but it is so much more than a pearl. Yet when you think of it, pearls are formed from grit and spit and found through diving deep. He also called it a mansion with many rooms. And there is room for you, room for the multitudes, room for those who turn from their mistakes and ask for forgiveness, room for the peacemakers to rejoice and the mourners to be comforted, where the last shall be first and the first last. Room for the healed who carried scars as a reminder we are human and also we are holy, holy, holy. So I'm going to read the next poem. I gave myself a challenge to write a poem a day during April of 2023. And this is a manuscript called Fistfuls of Jewels that I haven't published, but I hope to someday. And I just have to explain a couple things in the poem. One is I reference the movie, My Octopus Teacher. If you haven't seen it, it's really amazing. This guy actually develops a relationship with an octopus. And I also talk about Thich Nhat Hanh. And when Thich Nhat Hanh died, the monks came to show respect to his body, and they also chanted. They do a special kind of ceremony of chanting and praying. And it was all live on Facebook. Like you could just show up and attend and watch. It's really incredible. This is how it goes. I fall in love with the candle's yellow glow, the yellow leaves outside my window, the yellow gauzy ribbon cascading from a silver spiral hung on the back of my door next to the lines drawn with pencil to measure my grandson's height. This is how we go. The delirious ride into the unknown, the belief in salvation, no matter how it looks at the moment. I want to wear feathers on my head like the Irish singer Julia. I want to submerge myself in the algae forest like the octopus guy. I want to drink stars and spit out a tender rain to bring the deserts back into bloom. Does the world wait for me to notice? Do the leaves falling on the parking lot care that I love their fragile beauty while they were green, and I also love the crunching sound my boots make as they decay? Do the birds with their instinct to fly south know that I am below counting the days until I rush inside, lamenting the cold? This is how we go. A gentle goodbye surrounded by the calm chanting of monks is the knife-sharp contrast to a blood-spattered pavement, a knee on your neck, a lonely bed in ICU, a bomb dropped on your city. I fall in love with my knees, even though they hurt. I fall in love with wind while it chases me inside. I tell myself there's more than yellow candles and a small warm room, but these are mine and I hold them close. So thank you so much for having me. I want to invite all of you who are in the Twin Cities to join me for a writing workshop that I'll be offering at Eat My Words Bookstore on Sunday, February 16th. We're going to write love poems. It's called Love Finds a Voice. The price of the workshop is to buy any book from the store. You don't have to buy mine, but I'd love it if you do. I'm going to do a reading after the workshop. So February 16th would be really lovely to see you. Thank you. I think Ron just stepped away for a moment. Here he comes. Okay. Bye.
All done, Wendy? Okay, thank you, Wendy. Our next poet up is Rifka Levitt. Rifka has been writing poetry since she was a teenager in 1971. She attended Kenyon College, Carnegie Mellon University, and the University of Michigan and George Washington University. She has published poems in GW Review, the Baltimore Sun, and a book on early childhood education. She is happily involved with the Bird's Nest Poets. Rifka, take it away.
All right. Hello. My name is Rifka Levitt, formerly Rana Hammer. I'm adopting my Hebrew name, Rivka, and my mother's maiden name, Levitt, because I want to be viewed by everyone I meet now as a Jew. The name Rana Hammer does not convey that. With anti-Semitism on the rise, I want Jews I meet to know right away that I can be trusted to help them if they are ever in danger. Pomegranate. This one is plump, ripe, and juicy, not like the other ones we brought before Halloween. I slit the red, leathery rind, split it into 6 hunks. 4 of us gathered round white plates with red seats, bursting with flavor. Emmy licks her chops, rolls her brown eyes round, says, mmm. She's wearing a brand new white turtleneck. I think about changing her, then forget. Sammy picks up 2 chunks at once, shoves half of one in his mouth, and giggles with glee. Joe coughs, says, a seed went down the wrong throat, and we all choke on our laughter, the juice running down. By the time we get done, there are seeds everywhere, and the juice cascading down the front of M's white shirt is hopelessly deep red, and the seeds get stuck in our teeth and in our shoes, and the mess is huge, and joy is all that's left in the spit out bits of seeds. Six years old. Supposedly, we're eating dinner. Dad slouches over the evening newspaper, doesn't say a word. Mom sits still, glares at him in disbelief. Tater tots taste like cardboard boxes stuffed with cotton. The bedroom door slams shut. Their yelling builds like blocks of my toddler brother, closer to crashing with each additional sound. It stops with a slap. Nothing tumbles down. I wrote this next poem after a very scary nightmare I had when my only child at that time was 4 years old. Heritage, 1945. My body isn't familiar to me. These calves and thighs were thick, but now my flesh hugs my bones. Instead of my Reuben's belly, there's a valley of skin stretched between the hills of my hips. Breasts that filled my husband's hands disappear behind my small protecting palms. My upper arms were plump, but now drapes of skin flap where fat had been. No hair keeps wind from my neck. Reaching up, I feel only stubble. I don't care about my looks. I'm obsessed with my son. He's only 4 years old. I've never not known where he is. He was shoved to a place where I've never been, simply because he came from my hardy womb. Watching planes. Para mi cuñada, for my sister-in-law, who lived in Chile. Sitting at a park across from the airport, a small green pond between us and the runway. The roar of the planes lifting is enormous. We feel power sifting through our bones. There are no faces, only the onyx oval staring back in rows. Watching planes, I remember our partings, how we waved to you from inside the plane, watching your hand flutter long after you could still see our faces, as if continuing to wave at those ovals of distance could somehow delay the thousands of miles soon to come between us. I didn't turn away until your face was embedded in clouds. Darkness. It lasted longer this time. Me believing I couldn't take photos, me believing I couldn't paint, me believing I couldn't write poems, me believing I could not speak. Silence at breakfast, silence at lunch, silence at 5 o'clock tea. World happenings made it worse. Hamas's attack on Israel, Jews killed, Jews raped, Jews taken as hostages. The bombings in Gaza, relentless. Palestinians losing their mothers, their daughters, their babies, their brothers, their fathers, grandmothers. Families losing their homes, leaving in huge migrations. And I could not forget Zelensky, a Jew with so much integrity, a Jew with so much defiance, a Jew I feel so proud of. His country bombarded daily, like Gaza, but longer sustained. And then there he was, all of us watching him, talking of Hitler, talking of taxes, talking of migrants eating pets, talking of stopping the war in Ukraine, talking of solving the Middle East crisis, speaking of migrants seeking asylum. He spoke about 3 or more terms, like Franco, Pinochet, and Putin. United States citizens voted to put him in power. Again, United States citizens voted to put him on our highest throne. Again. And he threatened to pardon those thugs who tried to stop our election completion. So what am I going to do now? I'm tutoring a 5-year-old Latino Latina how to read. She makes me happy. Her school makes me happy, so progressively designed. I'm reading a book called Manifesto on Never Giving Up. And I'm going back to Walt Whitman. This from I Sing the Body Electric. The man's body is sacred and the woman's body is sacred. It is no matter who. Is it a slave? Is it one of the dull-faced immigrants just landed on the wharf? Each belongs here or anywhere just as much as the well-off, just as much as you. Each has his or her place in the procession. So I have another name for MAGA. Make America Generous. Again and again and again and again. On my first trip to Chile, after we were married, we climbed an Andes mountain to visit a lake, the Green Lake. It hides at the top of Lonquimay Mountain, where cries of wild birds echo in the water. El Lago Verde, green from the 5 hills filled with trees reflected on its face. To get there, we climbed 2 hours, more than 2 hours. I learned the names of trees I'd never seen. Boldo, Canelo, Alerce, Aromo, Tepa, Peumo. You gave me these words as I gathered new leaves. We felt gravity straining our backs, the backs of our calves tightening. Finally, the sky yawned wide above the lake. We were alone with all that green. We called each other's names across the water, carving the sounds in thousands of trees. That's it.
Very nice, Rifka. I like that, carving the sounds in thousands of trees. Thank you very much for reading. Our next poet is Donna Isaac. Donna is a teaching artist who works through the League of Minnesota Poets to spread literary joy in the Twin Cities community. She taught full-time for 40 years and holds degrees from James Madison University, the University of Minnesota, and Hamline University. Published work includes Footfalls through Pocahontas Press, Tommy through Red Dragonfly Press, Holy Comforter through Redbird Chapbooks, and Persistence of Vision through Finishing Line Press, including poems and literary journals. A new book by Finishing Line Press, In the Tilling, is forthcoming February 2025. Let's hear Donna.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to start with a poem from Holy Comforter, which is a chapbook. Penny Candy. I used to walk to the corner store for paper bags of Smarties, Mary Janes, and tiny little wax bottles filled with red syrup. Today, I walk for the regimen, ignoring a dark penny mini manhole cover of copper on the tarred road. I hear a train blast by the river. The moon is paling in the elm tops. First flickerings of fireflies in synchronicity remind me of time. In late summer, my lips are cold from melon. Daylilies wither near white grave markers. Blackberry bushes are bereft of fruit. And there are quiet hours, listening to the spider wrapping the bee in a shroud of silk. I'm going to read 2 poems from my new book, In the Tilling. I believe the information is there for you. A lot of the poems center on sustenance, food, and memory. This poem is called Mist. In the middle of Wexford, Ireland, eating strawberries wet from washing, I heard my mother call my name from hills dotted with rock and nodding cattle lying down waiting for rain. It must have been fairies crawled out of their fairy mound, or a leprechaun versed in mimicry in imitation of her voice, since she had left for good the year before. It could have been the hills themselves that spoke, but in the middle of Wexford, she clearly said my name. I turned to look for her, but saw only purple rhododendrons, spikes of blue stripe, a misty morning, Wicklow Mountains in the distance. And this is the last poem from In the Tilling, coming out in February. It's a prose poem, and it's called Teeth. My brother's teeth are so white, they nearly blind me. In a dark photo, he looks like the Cheshire Cat. Daddy used to give me a stiff toothbrush and tell me to brush the yellow away. I learned that Chinese women used to dye their teeth with eggplant skin to darken them. A dentist told me teeth are rarely bright white, but have shades of gray and yellow. Having teeth of any color is better than the alternative. My grandmother on my father's side eventually had 2 teeth and gummed her food. My grandfather on my mother's side used to scare the grandkids with his extracted false teeth, clacking them like castanets. Several of my aunts and uncles had partials or uppers or lowers, sometimes painful oozing. I have 4 bridges to span gaps and to repair a snaggletooth I broke twice, once on my sister's head in a game of leapfrog, and once on a knee-high bottle jiggled in a car ride. If you dream about losing teeth, you are probably anxious, beginning something new, worried about aging or health, or being attractive to the opposite sex. Some cultures believe you're soon to lose a family member. I have finally accepted my teeth, gaps, color, and all, having trepidations about time spent in dental chairs upside down, gagging on goo or molds, appreciative, but uncomfortable with scraping or drilling. Since I eschew farina, gruel, or pap, this will be done. The next 2 poems are new ones. I'm working on these prose poems about words that I like. The first poem is called Lilac. Persian lilac and Arabic layak equals Old English lilac. 2 syllables with lilting L's, a restive lie fading into short A and hard C. Trochee bloom above heart-shaped leaves. All for renewal and springtime they come. Whitman's scent memory, April, the month of Lincoln's death. At a friend's funeral, my mother wore a lavender lilac sprig upon her lapel. My grandmother placed a bursting bouquet in a mason jar upon a parquet table, the starry petals slowly letting go. Students would snap them off and proffer them at my desk from time to time. Their clusters rouse us out of winter, a stir of fragrant color. Poet Amy Lowell loved them too, puffs of flowers hiding nesting birds. When I say lilac, I can feel the heavy bloom in my hand as I lift it and inhale. I am transported to seasonal wonder, catkins, bluebells, birdsong, light, sweet, sweet light. And another one of those poems about a word I like is called fluther. It's spelled Fluther. Fluther. Do you know the word fluther? A collective noun for a group of jellyfish, also called a smack. It comes via Middle English for flutter, likely for the tentacles waving in the sea. Jellyfish only propel upwards, and so they need the currents to sidle. My family know jellyfish, though not always in a good way. Stung by sea nettles, arms and legs streaked with welts. Daddy said piss would ease the pain, but Mama preferred a baking soda poultice. Moon jellies were harmless and lovely, no stingers, afloat like gelatinous bells. Some fluthers are carnivals of color, pink, yellow, blue, purple. And some are clear or even bioluminescent. Jellyfish are mostly nerves and water, evolutionary links to humans. From a distance, I find fluthers mesmerizing. Bay ballerinas twirling, throbbing. SeaWorld holds them in a saltwater tank illuminated with neon lights. And oh, the magic of that. By the by, the verb fluthered is Irish for drunk, like over-imbibers reeling out of a late-night pub, just like the bobbling invertebrates weaving their way home. And I thought I would end with a poem for Frederick Douglass, born February 1818, and in celebration of Black History Month. Frederick Douglass by Robert Hayden. When it is finally ours, this freedom, this liberty, this beautiful and terrible thing, needful to man as air, usable as earth, when it belongs at last to all, when it is truly instinct, brain matter, diastole, systole, reflex action, when it is finally one, when it is more than the gaudy mumbo jumbo of politicians, this man, this Douglass, this former slave, this Negro beaten to his knees, exiled, visioning a world where none is lonely, none hunted, alien. This man, superb in love and logic, this man shall be remembered. Oh, not with statues, rhetoric, not with legends and poems and wreaths of bronze alone, but with the lives grown out of his life, the lives fleshing his dream of the beautiful, needful thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Donna. Wonderful poems. Nice to hear your voice again. Next up, we have Christine Madeline Ellsworth, who is a Minnesota native currently residing in southeastern North Dakota. She holds a BA in English Literature from Minnesota State University Moorhead and an MA in English Literature from Marquette University. As a member of the National Association for Poetry Therapy and the International Federation of Biblical Poetry Therapy, she is in her final year of working towards certification as a certified poetry therapist. Well, poetry therapy facilitator, to be correct. Poetry therapy has been recognized as beneficial to people who seek healing and growth. She has facilitated poetry therapy sessions for high school students working through grief, adults grappling with change, women recovering from domestic violence, and seniors seeking to accept aging with grace and resilience. She is the author of one book of poetry published in 2020, Girl Again, and has received a first award of merit in the League of Minnesota Poets for entry in its 2021 annual poetry contest. Her poetic work has been published in Red Weather, Scarf Bee, The Talking Stick, The Auditory Review, Northern Narratives, and Agates. She's currently working on a novel and a second book of poetry. Take it away, Christine.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you for inviting me. I've really enjoyed listening to all of the wonderful poets this evening, and I'll round us up. And I think a lot of us had poems about nature. I have a few too. My first one is Red Osier Dogwood. Those slender red osier dogwood shoots I clipped late one winter, I brought them to you, barely 9 sticks, wrapped in newspaper. Start them here, I said, in a tall, clear glass vase filled with fresh water, nearest a warm southern window, and wait a few weeks. There on our kitchen counter, they set forth a sprout of seed pearls strung on barely green buds. Then, oh yes, soon enough, an audacity of leaves, such natural assertions in fresh emerald strands, climbed up onto our flat February gray. Quite the surprise, you said, eyebrows lifted. Remember? It was those very days, drained of color, devoid of light, when we orbited slivered penumbras of hope that hollowed our splintered souls. It was then that the red osier dogwood's covenant with spring saved us, just barely, for yet one more season of sky. This poem I wrote a couple years ago now, and it finally found a home. It's University of North Dakota is going to be publishing it. And I care very much about what this poem talks about. What to wear while saving France. Don't worry, it's been saved already by a woman who looked much like we do today. And what with our cropped hair and our menswear, we would have burned at the stake too, since most of us do hear divine voices, such as what guides us to plant tomatoes today and not wait till tomorrow, or when to open the door to a stray cat. It's the same wisdom that taught us as primeval women to draw a new life from inside ourselves and bravely sever that cord, setting all of us free. Some call it witchcraft or strange lunar influences, and it wasn't just the old kings and those middle-aged Burgundians who were moved to strike flint by such unparalleled power. These days, you'll not be killed for wearing trousers or offering good counsel to, say, the minister, but you'll still need to advance hard against the prejudicial ranks and rally an army to reason when the need arises, as it will, as it does daily, to thwart that ancient fear. Wear your body to such events as though you yourself own it. This one is called What the Lake Thinks. And Ron, you are the one that started this. Ron gave me a challenge. I don't know how this happened. It happened on Facebook, but Ron said, why don't you write a poem about what the lake thinks? So I did. It's kind of long. Bear with me. What the lake thinks. The earth is a living thing. Mountains speak, trees sing, lakes can think, pebbles have a soul, rocks have power. Henry Crow Dog. True, our human science posits that a lake expresses in terms of slope or clarity, or perhaps fluctuation, but others know lakes think in a far more fluent dialect, beginning with the simple place names we Midwesterners give. She is Sweet Lake. She is Johnny Cake Lake. She's Biddy Makaska, Devil's Lake, Bachelor, Marshall, Superior, Stump, the many Lake 35s, 312s, Lake Full of Fish, or the sugar lakes of Glen, Reamer, Cass Lake, and Maple Lake counties, Sunhigh Lake, Swartout Lake, the Two Medicines, many numbers of long mud, rice, and round lakes, the North Dakota surprise of pretty Lake Elsie, or that big girl, Waganga of Kandiyohi County. Post your ice fishing report there, boys. All of the thousands from Annie Battle to Jolly Ann to Minnie Car, and our beloved, undeserved La Kiparo. Can you even count those silvers and diamonds and pearls and rubies? All of them, those brilliant heiresses like glittering strands strung around the neck of our one glacial mother, these rich daughters of ancient Lake Agassiz. Hear them sing now in these northernmost biomes, so divergent, diverse, phosphorescent. They simmer, sonorous in an algae bloom, swimming with the fecund fecal matter of pike and burbeau, muskellunge, freshwater shrimp, painted turtles, snakes, and lilies, tiny coppery water pennies, springtails, the navies of caddisflies, ever onward toward the waves of erosion, borne on the descending suns of wintry weight, excuse me, until all settles, softly into winter and shifts into a harder place in silence, so heavy at the center, her thermocline, born of a steady, sure drop in heat, silting downward and inward to an interior plane of deep sharded mystic, where slowly her conscious rises slow, slower, slowing, expanded, stopped. Comes a beam of shy sunlight peeking late into the thinness of March, the celestial touch. The turn of the equinox hauls her up out of the ice. She shears, calf-like in groaning decibels, raucous and resonant like when the lake heaved midwinter. But now her language is stronger, is consonant as the strike of trees falling onto bare black earth. Harrowing as the tornadic updraft into the barometric involutions, some tens of thousands of feet in the air. She wakes. Her shifting weight falls like a woman turning a heavy hip over onto her back after a long season belly prone, and now utterly joyful, eyes upward open. She wildly gulps oxygen, calls down the sky, converges with air in a matrimony of holiness. She sings fresh winds, sends foamy white rivulets, then shoulders them back, relentlessly teasing his shoreline with certain dissolution decadence. In that conception, or gymkhana of elements, her depths giving birth to strings and plumes, bubbling up a foul stink to offend the soft spring, that sure scent of ripe life turning over yet again. You say you still haven't understood what the lake thinks. Try this. When she has gone flat, placid, glassine, one still August day, stand very close. All your foremothers and forefathers have done so. They know. Didn't they tell you? Bend to see yourself and see, witness how she is all around you. She is now part of your life. She always was. She is clearly showing your belonging. She always has. She has pictured you also as hers. She's offered her wisdom, you realize, and will always, upon reflection, if you think about it. Kindred, she said to you. Baptism, she thinks. Thanks for bearing with me. That's a long one. And I'll finish with a new one that I've written. It's called Gifts from the North Dakota Night Sky. This is about a memory, my first memory as a kid. What bursts out of the sunset this evening are shining streams of memories, brilliant filaments bending in astronomical recurvature, transiting me back light years to the childhood morning when I first met you, when I had a habit of waking up and slipping outside barefoot and careless in soft red flannel jammies, twisted sideways from sleep. They often found me that way in the sandbox, them standing with their hands on robed hips, squinting down at me, making tiny rules with my busy fingers, a small goddess at sunrise, raising mountains, dredging oceans, constructing Mr. Rogers' neighborhoods of palm-shaped dwellings on friendly cul-de-sacs. Or else I was all the way down by the garage where the old iron swing set stood alongside it like a giant sawhorse. I couldn't get on them without stronger, older arms, but I'd push the wooden seats anyway, seeing imaginary friends smiling back at me. We laughed while the metal chains shrieked in rusty choirs to wake the neighbors. It was a morning much like that in my 3rd year, when a breeze asked me to look up to find the source of what tickled the green leaves in the trees, and I found you for the first time. Not red, not green, not sand, not TV screen, not parents' robes, but you rising above, between, beyond the branches. In my littleness, I saw you as a being of such stumbling, wide immensity. I fell down on the soft grass, like toddlers sometimes do, struck dumb with the discovery of your color. As first memories go, I count mine as a gift from above, and I know I knew then, and I remember again now, I was seeing the realest, bluest, wildest eye of life, even as it's closing again, descending in moonrise into the ancient indigo wisdom of the North Dakota night sky.
Thank you, Christine. That was a wonderful poem to end the evening with. Thanks to all the poets reading tonight. Thanks to Valerie Lockhart and the Minneapolis Television Network for putting this on. Thanks to everyone out there listening. It was certainly a wonderful night. Take care.